Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Planning Board. Does anybody have any opening statements?
You need to read the recording.
Oh yeah, sorry. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. And is being recorded. Is anybody in the audience recording as well? Okay, hearing none. Does anybody have any opening statements?
I wonder if they can hear us.
Dan and Steve, are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing none. First order of business is to review and approve the meeting minutes from January 21st, 2025. Planning Board meeting, and from the January 28th Joint Board Workshop. So taking the first, January 21st, 2025, are there any corrections or comments?
There is one correction. On the back side, it was seconded by Kevin Pat. Is that correct?
Oh. No, I think it was seconded by Pat, so if we can make that correction. Perfect.
That's the only one.
Okay. Any others? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from January 21st.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Pat?
Aye.
Brian? Dave?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dan?
We lost Dan.
Oh,
It's okay.
well, chair votes aye.
That's all.
Okay, how about the minutes from the January 28th Joint Board Workshop? Any corrections to those? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Pat?
Aye.
Brian? Dave?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dan? And chair votes aye. The motion carries. All right, we're now moving into the workshop portion of this meeting. And just to put this in context, we are using materials from a prior approved project to test out a rubric that we discussed at our last planning board meeting. This project was approved in 2021 and is included for instructional purposes only. Any discussion of this project during this meeting is intended only as practice for using a new tool under development for the process of site plan review. Nothing discussed for this workshop has any bearing on the property, and we won't even list the address in order to respect all parties involved. So to that end, how this normally would go is the applicant would make their presentation. We would have read materials in the staff report in advance. And then in best case, we would have taken the rubric ahead of time after a site review and filled it out according to our review of the project, according to the criteria, and then come here for discussion. So if we can, bear with the process, my recommendation would be that we would go one section at a time and then go, if whichever board member has comments, we can go through that. This is practice, so we could all speak, each one of us, if you have a comment on that particular criteria, or if you have nothing to add, you can certainly pass on that. So maybe for, organization purpose, I'll call each criteria and then go down the row and see, based on the project review, if anybody had any comments and which score, exemplary, satisfactory, marginal, or unacceptable, you chose and why you chose that. So, and then we'll kind of summarize at the end. So if we can start with the first criteria, landscape preservation, 10.3.2.1. And the first sub-criteria is natural state preservation. So, Pat, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I rated this satisfactory because in the application, they said that there's no intent to change the landscape that's there. Although on the drawings, there are a few new shrubs going in. But because there's already a house there, I think that anything that would have been changed to the natural state probably was changed many years ago. So I gave it a satisfactory because it doesn't seem like there's any major changes happening.
Okay, thanks. We'll go up to Steve. I think you're on mute, perhaps. No. Oh, okay. Hearing none.
I am, here I am.
Oh, there you are. Okay,
It's
good.
actually, I'm trying to look at the documents at the same time. I too rated it satisfactory. I will tell you, I'm using this as mostly, for me, is mostly to listen to everybody else, since this would be my first go-around in a formal process. Okay?
Okay, sure. So we'll just, if you want to put your hand up there, if you want to contribute, then
Sure.
I'll call on you then. Perfect.
Very good. Thanks. It's formally informal, I guess.
Great. This is kind of an informal workshop where we're testing this thing out.
Right.
So it's a good way to kind of practice. Dave?
Thank you.
I also rated it satisfactory. When I was looking at the plans, I did notice that there were new shrubs being put in alongside the new garage. And when I read the documents, it didn't mention anything about native species. So I thought that if we were doing this today, that we would have a note to that effect.
Okay. Great.
Actually, that's a question point. If they didn't put in that they're doing at least 50% native, which is what's required, should that have gotten an unacceptable?
But isn't that the second criteria underneath?
Oh, sorry,
There.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I separated,
no, you're right, I was
That
getting
out.
ahead of myself, but.
yeah. No, that's okay. Any other comments, Paul? Okay, Brian, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would, well, just that I would also give it a satisfactory, simply because it's a gorgeous house, and you can say this in retrospect. The lay of the land and the land that it's off of Higgins Road and is, oh, thanks. Yeah, so the lay of the land was flat, is flat, but I found it to be, exemplary, but it wasn't in the same state, or it could have been a little bit more in the same state it was in before. So that's the only caveat for.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I wavered between exemplary because they basically are preserving all of what we see as the native species. So if they're not removing native species, are they preserving it? And if they're preserving the native species, why isn't it exemplary? Not referring to the next category, but the first one.
Right. So I was kind of with Dan, and my question to Paul and Jackie would be, I did have exemplary because there were no proposed changes, but my question was, do we put in a condition around maintaining what exists, which, you know, was no grade change, et cetera, et cetera? And is that something that we should consider doing in this to maintain what already exists?
And I think that's always up, you know, for you all to find those places where a condition to shape the project feels necessary. I think in general, if most of the board is seeing something as exemplary or satisfactory, if you're sort of split in that area, you're sort of evaluating it as it's good as proposed. You're there.
Okay.
You know, it's, I think, really where we hit marginal and, of course, unacceptable, where you may find that you're feeling strongly that you need some conditions or some redesign.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then let's move to the next one, the landscaping and native plants. So Pat?
So this is one where we don't know what's there now as far as, there's some natural areas, but we really don't know what it looks, and there's another natural area. So I would think that we would want to talk to them about this 50% native species, because we don't know, and just maybe if we had more information, they would, because sometimes we see these lists of what will be installed, and they are native species. So I think I would need more information. So I wouldn't want to do marginal, but maybe I would do satisfactory with some sort of a note or an area of concern.
Okay.
And it's more just because we don't know.
Okay. Brian?
I have
No comments?
on this one.
Okay. Dave?
I had it as unacceptable.
Okay.
They show no consideration for native species, and I think that's important. So that's my comment.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, here we get into something. If it's foundation plantings around the house, do they have to be native, Paul?
Well, I think it just really refers to whether they're doing plantings at all. So I think if the project was happening and they're not disturbing any ground and they're not proposing to put any plantings, my feeling is it's not necessary really that they have to put plantings unless it's to mitigate an issue that the board's uncovered, you know? So like not forcing someone just to do plantings if they don't want to, just for looks. So I guess that's the first part. Now we're at the point of, yes, they're proposing or your board's requiring that they be plantings and they are foundational. I think what the intent of the bylaw was that, yeah, any of the plantings should be a mix of natives. And there are a wide range there are native plants that are appropriate for foundation. But again, I was going to bring this up, so thanks for the question, Dan, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's unacceptable, in my opinion. It just depends on just because they didn't propose anything, if it's not required.
But they are proposing something.
I know, I'm just saying just for general
Oh.
discussion, like, I don't think the board's obligated to like require them to put plantings in if it's not integral to the project or you haven't identified something that the plantings would be mitigating a problem. That's all.
Right. Screening or
So,
something.
Dave, when you say they are proposing something, is that the shrubs
Yeah.
on either side?
Yep.
But we don't know what those are.
Right, that's
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
what you said.
So I think this is a great example where the board, you know, if it was proposed to you in this way, you know, and I have to say, if we received an application this way, we would be saying, you have plants, but they're unidentified. You need a landscape plan, or you
Right.
need to be requesting a waiver of a landscape plan.
Right. And that's
Right
what,
now-
yeah.
But this could also be, if this is what they hand in, they ask for a waiver, and this is where you're shaping, yes, we want 50% native species, what are you going to agree to? Do we condition that landscape plan just needs to be submitted to the department? Is it, enough that you want them to come back for another meeting? Depending on how the rest of the project goes. If this was the only thing holding you back, you might say,
Right.
we need a plan showing that you're meeting that criteria, and it needs to go to the department, and staff will handle that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Steve Rogers, I just have a question. Again, pardon the ignorance of being the new guy, but where does it say that you need a landscape plan? Or,
No, it's a great question. So in the application
Yep.
that folks fill out when they are going to a board, they have a checklist.
Yep.
Let's see, you have it, I know you're on a PDF, Steve, it would be on page 5, thanks, Natasha, of the application, not of that full PDF, so you'd have to search a little bit.
okay,
So they do have specifics,
I see it.
and then
Yep.
they can request a waiver. But that, just so you know, that waiver request would actually happen during the meeting. So we don't grant them waivers at the staff level. They would be coming in requesting a waiver from you all, and if you voted no, we're not going to waive you of a landscape plan, and they haven't provided any information, then, it may go to a second meeting.
The checklist calls for a landscape plan or a narrative description, so we've kind of, there's some flexibility. If you're not really planning anything grandiose, you can come in with just a list of plantings and a, written description, so. Depends on, again, that may not be satisfactory. The board may say that the description's not enough. We actually want a plan based on how complex it is, so that's up to the board.
Yeah. So that was my comment on this one. I put satisfactory only because I felt that what already was there, it's an already developed lot, was fine, but I agree with my colleagues here who said this proposal, there's no documentation on what the proposal is. So I would have asked for a landscape plan to outline what that would be, such that it would meet this criteria. But that was a good question, Dan's question about, like what's already there. We're not required to necessarily make them change that if it's an already developed lot,
Right.
correct?
But we could also ask that they just do a narrative and submit it to your department.
You can.
Instead of doing a landscape plan, which would, cost a fair amount of money, I assume.
Yes, and something simple like this, again, you could be in the room and they could say, okay, how about we do some inkberry, some winterberry, and some rhododendron? And we'll submit a new plan to the staff prior to issuance of a building permit. And that would be a pretty typical condition, actually.
Okay.
When you're talking about 10 shrubs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Great point. Okay, moving on. Criteria number 2, prevailing character and compatibility. This is always a big one. So prevailing character. So without listing or speaking about the name of the road that this project is on, Pat, do you want to speak to this?
I rated it satisfactory, because it did seem like it was generally compatible with the neighborhood, with what was already there in the neighborhood.
Okay. Good. Brian?
Well, prevailing character, in my estimation, holds for future as well as past. And then just looking at, as you drive by it daily, or in conjunction with looking at other properties in the area. And there are varied houses with, some have very improved lots, some have just bare kind of Cape lots. And based on that, I assigned it an exemplary because it is, although it's not kind of a Cape Cod-ish feel to a traditional Cape Cod-ish feel to the lot, it is a modern Cape Cod lot and house. That's-
Good. Dave?
I had it as satisfactory because of the sheer massing, the way, it's a long structure that looks out onto the road, and they have done nothing really to try to minimize that. I realize with the way the lot is and septic systems, and they didn't have a lot that could change, really.
Right.
Although I had one thought of taking the garage and actually moving it back on the lot as far as it could legally go, so that it would break up the front. And I would think that that would, limit the massing effect.
Yep. Okay,
That's
great.
that's something I thought of.
So you had satisfactory on that one.
Correct.
Great. Dan?
Yeah, this is one of these characters that I have most wrestling with. I'll go satisfactory.
I felt the same way, the length of the house, given the length of the lot. Again, I'm not familiar with the street, but it did seem that it was a long, large structure. And in general, I just don't see a lot of those in East End as I know it. So that was my thought as well.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I marked it, I love this rubric personally because it takes all of what we lump in, at least when I think about prevailing character, and sort of separates it out, right? So I had the same experience, and when we get to massing, I have a very different rating for that. But on prevailing character, given the fact that there are and I agree with what Brian's saying about future as well and past, there are a number of other structures that are of similar size. So I said it was generally compatible, and had minor inconsistencies with the prevailing character. It wouldn't be the only one that's of this size. Now, when I get to massing, I have a different rating, so that was my comment. Okay, any more on that one? All right, let's move to height and scale. Pat, do you mind keep going first?
No, this is one of the places where, in my notes, I wrote that I'd like to walk the neighborhood, because it was kind of hard to figure out how it was compatible with the neighborhood proportion when I don't know the neighborhood. So I made a note that I'd like to walk the neighborhood, and then I rated it satisfactory.
Okay,
Ray Robbins, Arrows.
Brian?
So given the corner lot, the height and scale, I think are very proportional and very symmetrical. So I gave it a satisfactory, only because, well, it's not too big, but not too small. But the symmetry, I don't know. As you're driving a lot of these, the roads, you want to find irregular or irregularness, and somebody with a fine eye for detail wanted to put this house here and not to have it be overburdening, but they wanted to get everything they could out of the space available. So I gave it a satisfactory.
Okay, good, thanks. Dave?
I gave it a satisfactory as well. It had a lot of pluses, but I think because of the massing and
Right.
so forth, I just didn't think it was exemplary. So I gave it a satisfactory.
Got it. Steve, did you?
Yeah, satisfactory as well. I mean, I think the design, is such that, they've taken the opportunity to kind of break up this very long house and put some, interesting features in it. So from that standpoint, it's satisfactory, but to the other comment, the massing still is troublesome in my mind.
Yeah. Dan?
I did satisfactory.
Okay, thanks. As did I think,
That's on
on the height
the height
and
and
scale.
scale. Yep.
height and scale.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do agree. We're somewhat, in this exercise, we're somewhat at a deficit because none of us have done site visits here, so we don't have all the information, as Pat said. All right, then we've all alluded to it, but let's go to massing. Pat?
So much to my surprise, because this is a big house, but when I looked at the use of dormers and setbacks and overhangs and porches, they've done that. And because they've done that, I gave it an exemplary, much to my own surprise. But they've done what the rubric has asked as far as the bells and whistles that would break it up a little bit on the massing.
Good, thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I gave an exemplary as well. And because of the aforementioned reasons of height and scale, but also, so the symmetry, it seems to me that that one or both of the owners are valedictorians in their high school class. I don't know why, but it just dawns on me. So I gave an exemplary.
Oh, nice, wonderful. Steve, did you have a comment on this one?
No, I think you know how I feel about, the massing versus the structure, so nothing to add.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I did exemplary. If we're trying to push for dormers and setbacks and overhangs and porches and all that, they did it. And I think they should be complimented on it.
Okay. Dave?
I gave it a marginal. It's just, I don't care about the fact that the symmetry, it's a massive house on that lot. And there's no plantings in the front to keep people from seeing that massive structure. So I gave it a marginal one.
Okay. I gave it unacceptable. And I think it's somewhere between marginal and unacceptable. I've been somewhat influenced by some of the creative ways we've seen projects shape, like where garages are offset, or there's some way to look through a project to the back through a portico, or even the renderings of the doorways just seem, sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't say this to an applicant, but somewhat institutional. I mean, I just felt there could be some offset, particularly of the garage, in order to cut the linear, and it is symmetrical for sure, but I mean the linear nature of it. So I would push back on asking for some other creative ideas, or what else had been considered other than the design that was put forth to us. So we're kind of all over the board on this one.
Yeah, I just would offer, because you said you were struggling between unacceptable and marginal,
Yeah?
that they are, I guess, from what you're saying, they did do some things, but probably not to the level that you felt comfortable, but, so they do have step backs and projections
Right.
in the porch, so just in terms of trying to figure out where to
Get to
rate it,
yes.
if I had said, if it had just been a totally flat
Right.
front or
Agreed.
whatever, I'm just trying to, that might be the difference maker, or, they did some things, but it's not, it's marginal, it's minimal. They did some basic architectural techniques, I would say, probably in your mind, that's what I was hearing.
Yep,
And they could do more, they could get more creative, so.
right. That's helpful. Yeah, it's not like it's a flat front with no porch and no dormers and no anything like that. So there is some character to it.
Well, and I think, so to speak to the experience right now of this, wow, we're as a board hitting across the entire rubric, that's okay. Right? Walking in here in different places with a different evaluation is where the discussion happens.
Yep.
And so I don't want you to shy away from that. When you find yourselves in that place, I think that's a great point in the meeting to say, looks like this warrants some more discussion. Why don't we stay here for a few minutes? We don't have to tonight, but,
Right.
you know, maybe we need to stay here and hear more. Maybe the applicant's got more they want to tell us about why
Right.
it is the way it is, and.
Well, and to my point before, the fact that we're granular now within this criteria, I would have before probably gone straight to massing, but I gave some of the prevailing character and height and scale, a much higher grade, right? So I do think there were a lot of positives to it, but this one just stuck, you know.
The reason that's an important point Jackie just made is because eventually we have to get to findings of fact. And when you
Right.
come to this one, where the board had this really broad spectrum, somehow the board's got to come together and,
Yep,
you know, so that's like, do you get into discussion about shaping the project so that, you know, at least everyone can get to a place where they can do satisfactory maybe or something, and then that's reflected in the findings of like, okay, the board discussed and they changed X, Y, Z, which made a difference. Because really, that's where it's all getting back to the findings at the end of this. So when you have,
right.
when you have a broad opinion, that's like probably going to be a good indicator.
And I do
We
think
gotta
that
clean this up.
the issue with this exercise too is we don't have the context,
Right.
right? It's
Yeah.
not, we started with this and then we put a porch and we did this and we did that. That would feel like there's some,
But let's say this was the first meeting we had with the applicant, and we were all over the place. How do we move so that there's some meeting of our minds a little bit? How do we do that?
well, I personally have already moved by hearing that perspective that you shared and other people shared of, you know, there is a porch and there is this and there are these other things. So doing this, personally speaking for myself, doing this exercise on my own, I came up with that. But this discussion alone has helped me come closer to the middle.
Well, so you mentioned other things, Michelle, which got me to think, oh, yeah, they could have done something. So I guess in a real meeting, we would be asking that of the applicants. What else have you thought about or have, because there is the experience on the board of seeing good design,
Right.
yeah, so.
Well, and I think too, just as I've said, this is going to be a place you wind up in more discussion. I think when possible, you also want to, at that first meeting, get through each line of the criteria in the rubric so that if redesign is going to be requested, and we hear this all the time in meetings already, right? Like the applicant will say, I want to make sure I've got everything you want us to be looking at so that we can take care of everything before. So that's also going to be a balance in your discussion of saying, okay, we've talked about massing for a while. I think we've all shared everything we have. Let's keep moving.
Right.
Right? And noting, you know, what are the concerns or what are the things that some folks are saying, no, I feel really good about that.
How much weight should we put on the lot itself? Because, I mean, they can't do a lot. I mean, because of where the septic system is and setbacks, and there's not a lot of things you can really do. So, on the one hand, I don't think the garage looks good because of the massing, but they can't do a heck of a lot with it.
Right? Well, and I think it's a great question, Dave, and I think it's why every project has to have its own time and look from you all, because you might look at it off the top and say, well, what if you move the garage to the other side so you could reorient it? Oh, wait, that puts you on the exact corner of Higgins and Baywood. Well, gee, in the summer, that Bayside Road is really well-traveled. Maybe that's, right? Maybe we're going to say, that's not safe, so we're going to have to put safety over aesthetic, even if it's not exactly what we want, right? You don't actually have to get exemplary everywhere to get a
No,
project approved.
No.
I would just add, I think this gets to one of the hardest parts, I think, of doing this site plan review for the board, is that the lot is a factor, and you may not be able to have everything you want on this lot because you are hemmed in by the size or where the septic, and that's the part where it's like, and it's, again, we've talked about this a lot, it's tough just human nature to say no to, this is someone's house and their dream and what they want, but, not, putting Cinderella's castle, it's not gonna work on every lot, there's a space here, so you gotta like think about that, and then sometimes it just might be the hard fact that if the board feels like this is just too much, and I understand this is the only way you can go, but it might mean that you gotta twist it, turn it, shrink it, change it somehow, and I think that's always what has been the toughest part, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully this rubric, the whole goal, one of the goals was to try to at least
It is.
get this separated a little bit, so you can,
It's
attack the core thing that the board feels is an issue, so.
Yep. Well, good, that's a good one, interesting. Let's go to setbacks and sighting, which is the last one in this, it's not, it's almost the last one. Setbacks and sighting, so Pat?
So I gave this a satisfactory, and the reason I did is because when I looked at this, I thought that the driveway was on, yeah, it is, it's on Baywood, and so that it would have been worse if it was on Higgins, and I thought, well, at least they're getting the existing driveway and the new driveway is on Baywood, and that makes it better than having it on the main road, which I think Higgins is more of a main road. So I gave it a satisfactory.
Good. Brian?
Yeah, I gave it a satisfactory as well. To me, this house is kind of the perfect image. Maybe not of a Cape Cod house, but anywhere, any town that you would put this house in, it would be not only perfectly acceptable, but you'd want to look at it as you drove by. But then the Cape Codness is not is not emphasized, and so that's why I didn't give it an exemplary, but it is a satisfactory.
Good, okay. Dave?
I gave it a marginal, with the caveat that you can't do much. But I just didn't, all the setbacks, you're up against the wall all over the place. And that just doesn't seem right to me.
Okay. Yep. Steve, any comments?
Marginal, same comments. It just, to me, it all relates back to the overall size.
Okay. Dan?
I did satisfactory. I think they've done what they could do.
Okay. And I was between marginal and satisfactory as well for some of the same reasons. But we are constrained to build that big of a house on this lot. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
before we leave that, so somewhere along the line, I've read, not to have a driveway that's straight out of the main road. And this one
Do you want to wait
is-
to get to vehicular safety?
Okay.
We can, or we can
Yeah.
do it now.
No, that's
It's
all
up to
right.
you.
No, it's okay. We can
Okay.
wait.
Totally. Go ahead, make your point.
Well, so my point was that the existing driveway might not be something that we like, and then I wondered what people thought about the proposed driveway extension, if that helps at all.
Well, it means you don't have to back out onto Bay.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Well, why don't we go to that criteria, it's criteria 5, circulation and safety, and then we'll just, Pat, since you went
Right.
there, let's go for that.
Yeah, so I gave it a satisfactory, but I did, and that when the construction is complete, it'll change a little bit,
Okay,
not great.
okay. Brian,
No, nothing.
no extra comments? Dave?
I gave it an exemplary because of the K-turn that they
Yeah.
put in.
Steve, did you have a comment on this one?
No, I'm unfamiliar with the area, so. I
Okay.
just-
Dan?
I gave it exemplary.
As-
They improved the situation, they made the driveway safer, and I don't think the criteria of avoiding a straight line in supersedes the safety factor of not backing out.
Yeah. And I gave it an exemplary as well. I like the driveway extensions and the turnarounds proposed for safety. We've seen a number of projects where we don't have that, and we've asked for that, so, good. All right, should we go then back to the top of page 2, so building materials. So we're still in the prevailing character and compatibility, so now building materials. So Pat?
So I couldn't find anywhere where I knew what the building material was. I don't know if I missed it, but I couldn't,
I think it's in here.
I don't think it was listed.
okay.
So in a meeting, right, this would be a great chance to say, what are your building materials?
Right.
What's the plan?
Yeah,
It looks like clapboard and cedar shake on the side, but,
It says on page 3 of 5, all proposed changes utilize architectural elements and materials common throughout the neighborhood. But it's not, you're
That
saying
wasn't
it's not
specific.
specific.
right. Right, where we might want, I would love to see an applicant listing, we are using
Got it.
cement board shingle, clapboard if that's what they're
Okay.
using, or, yeah.
Hey, can I just make a comment then, just again, looking at this? If we go back, if you just look at page 5, again, I'm looking at the PDF. It talks about site plans, there's a bunch of check boxes in here, but there are no checks in there. The landscape plan is the one that, as I started looking through this as we were talking earlier in the meeting, and it sounds like there's another area where perhaps information that's required is not provided. So, is there some I recognize, Jackie, that that's primarily, what you and or Paul do. So how does that work, and is there an improvement there that we can make, or is it not germane?
No, I think that's a great question, and I know this one was a couple of years ago. But, I would say our current process for receiving applications in the department is actually Natasha, who's in the room with us here too. You can't see her on camera, but she's here, who does a really great job actually of going over this checklist with applicants to make sure that everything's there, and if it's not, it's, hey, Jackie, hey, Paul, I think we need you out here. That being said, sometimes I might get a great big packet and say, well, hopefully building materials are listed in there somewhere. We'll find out. But, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the checklist doesn't line up with all of the criteria, so
Right. But we certainly try to catch what we can, or to advise. I mean, I know landscape plans or narratives have come up recently as something that we're saying, you don't have that in the packet, you can still submit today, but, the board's probably gonna ask you about that, right? So, you might wanna check it out, or as the staff report is getting written, I would say is the other part in the process, where if we're looking for information and can't find it, whether I'm writing it or Paul's writing it, depending on capacity at the moment with everything going on, may be able to reach out to an applicant to say, hey, I'm looking through your project and I don't see this piece of information. I would love to know for my report, and I bet you the board's gonna wanna know.
Right. That's a good point. Good. Dan?
Yeah, this one can't be answered. So basically, I said indeterminable, because until we know what the materials are, how can we possibly rate it on this rubric? So
Yep.
if anything, what it did is it pointed the fact that we need the information. It's not enough to deny or agree or disagree or marginal or exemplary. We just don't know.
Right.
So it's, in mine, I said, don't know, need more
Perfect.
information.
And
I don't think it's fair to rate something that you don't have the information on.
right. And I only said this to Michelle and Dan, I think, in the pre-meeting, but I think it's important for everyone. You don't have to fill in information. You don't have to make up an answer where one is not provided.
Yep.
So don't feel compelled when you have this in front of you for a real project to say, well, I have to give it some sort of rating. If no information is provided, leave it blank.
Yeah.
Right? And then you'll sort it out with the applicant during the meeting, hopefully, or it will be something that's not pertinent to the project. So you don't need to feel compelled to get something on every single row if it's not there.
Great.
That'll be okay.
Yeah, well, I've taken something from this conversation, and I read what they said, that it was, in line, and I said, oh, that's good, right? So, but I appreciate what everybody's saying here and getting more information. Did I miss anybody on that one? Oh, Dave, sorry.
That's okay. I actually rated it exemplary. However, after this discussion, I can easily see, the points that have been made. I took page 3, the information from there, and just said, okay,
Right,
they're going to use regular materials and that kind of thing. And said they've checked the box, but I can understand where you might really want to know the types of materials that are going to be used. So,
yep. No, but I'm totally with you on that one.
Well, I mean, this is also under an old application where the way that we ask these questions are a bit different now.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
As we're asking you all to use that bylaw language specifically, we are also asking applicants to get more specific. You can't just say it fits, you have to say
Right.
why. You
Yeah,
have to
I
show
noticed
it.
that, right.
Yeah.
What the applications we're reading now don't read like this.
They're a little more robust.
And the boxes are checked. Okay, well, it could be maybe similar on lighting and,
Well, let me just, may
oh,
I?
oh, sure, Brian,
Uh,
sorry.
Building materials, something that my grandfather said to me was inferior building materials breed inferior workmanship. And I think it would be good if we asked, is it going to be wood, or is it going to be fiberglass, or is it going to be, whatever, because Pat identified that we don't know what exactly they're going to use. But we make the assumption that that it's all approved, that the materials used are approved and can be used. And then that takes me back to my, inferior materials breed inferior workmanship.
Yep,
And you don't want a house that's, you can look at it and it looks fine, but in actuality, it's like an appliance, Some last 2 years, some last 10 years or longer.
yep, excellent point. All right, then let's go to lighting, and we'll start going the other way here. Dave?
I said unknown because I can't see I don't see lights on the house.
Yep.
And there's no lighting plan.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I can't make that determination.
Yeah.
so.
Pat?
Same. And just the experience that we've had, where we've seen applicants with detailed lighting plans, helps to inform this, because now we know what a good lighting plan looks like, and this isn't it. Because there wasn't any.
There wasn't any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve?
Nothing additional.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, basically, we covered this in the conditions. We say that all of the lighting fixtures shall be downloaded and shielded. So the bottom line is, it's covered in our conditions. I'm not sure if we, and this is a good point to Paul, if we have that condition in the findings and in the conditions of approval, do we need any more?
I would say there may be a time and place where there may be a reason why they don't want it down shielded. It could be that they got a, 5-acre piece of property and it's not gonna spill out on anyone's property or something like that, so.
Well, then we would take away the condition of requiring it to be shielded. I'm saying our standard condition list says that lighting should be shielded and down directed. So I'm wrestling with why we need this. But if it's a good checklist, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah,
We
I don't think
thought
it's going to
we-
warrant discussion, right? If they provide
Yeah.
you, like usual, if there's a spec sheet and it shows that all the lighting's down shielded, and you don't necessarily have to go down the line if it's really obvious. We have a really detailed lighting plan here. Everything is down shielded. That meets the conditions. Let's keep moving.
Right, right.
Right? I mean, that will be okay. And then if there are places, I'm also thinking of projects where you all identified, gosh, there's 17 outdoor lights on this property. Can we pause and talk about that?
I have a question about, and I agree with Dan, about the downshielding. We see that pretty standard now, but what about the inside stuff that encroaches on neighbors? People that have windows that are, ceiling to floor, where we had a project not that long ago where there was that going on. Does that fall in this area? What is that architectural technique?
The specific language in the bylaw on lighting simply states exterior lighting shall be downshielded to minimize light pollution. So it's specifically on exterior. Under architectural techniques, I don't
I mean,
think
do
right
we
now
have
don't
any
have glazing, window glazing.
jurisdiction over that when abutters come and say, I'm going to be staring into a house that has lighting on, 5 hours into the dark part of the night, and I'll be able to see right in, and can those lights be directed in another, do we have any jurisdiction over that, or is that the inside of the house?
Well, I think it's related, we did deal with that on a case, so I
Yeah.
think it's within the board's purview. I think it's really more related to the the design of the house, the window
So
placement.
the architectural technique?
The architectural
Okay,
technique.
that was my question.
But I think it's tough, and also that case, it was brought up by the neighbors, so they
Yep,
highlighted it as an issue, but.
right, I remember that.
I think it can get into character too, right? If you have this big wall of glass,
Right,
gets into neighborhood character in that context.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
Again, it's just good to remember too, like, all of these criteria, they're all levers that you're gonna push and pull, and they all overlap, so like, some, that the interior light spill from a
Right.
huge wall of glass may be an issue, but maybe it's resolved simply through screening and the landscaping piece and not redesigning, it's all-
Exactly.
So all these things are all gonna overlap, and
Yeah.
So I think we talked about this the first round. It's like not every criteria is not going to be exemplary or satisfactory. It's okay to approve a project that doesn't have straight A's across the board, because as long back to you're making these findings and you're shaping the project
Right.
where we didn't make you redesign the whole thing because we mitigated it to our satisfaction
Sure.
by doing other things.
Yeah, no, I just had that specific question
Yeah.
about the lighting, if that was only external. Okay, so then to architectural techniques, Dave?
I had it down as marginal, and trying to remember exactly why, because I think just because of the massing part of it, and I didn't see where it just needs more work to try to reduce that massing.
Yep. Okay, Brian?
I thought it was satisfactory. I didn't see anything, I mean, it's an attractive house. And I think it fits.
Good. All right. Pat?
Yeah, I had it rated satisfactory too.
Okay. Steve?
Marginal to satisfactory, somewhere in that realm.
Okay. Dan?
At least satisfactory.
Okay. And I was sort of on the line with Dave around the change to the street view, and back to the massing, and this change, it's a significant increase of massing to the street. And so I thought there could have been some additional architectural techniques used to offset that. but it went back to my comments from before, so. Okay, so let's move to sensitive site features, criterion 3. Brian, do you want to start with that one? Sensitive features avoidance.
Well, it's on a flat area, or the developers made it into a flat area. So I don't see any pluses or minuses to sensitive area,
Okay,
sensitive.
Dave?
I had it as exemplary, because they're not changing, basically,
Okay.
anything.
Pat?
I had it as satisfactory because there may be some small changes, but basically there aren't a lot of sensitive features to
Right.
avoid.
Okay. Steve?
Satisfactory.
Okay. Dan?
Exemplary, it fits the definition of exemplary. It avoids the impacts on steep slopes, floodplains, hilltops, dunes, scenic vistas, wetlands, and incorporates any of the features. So therefore, in my opinion, it's exemplary.
And I rated it exemplary as well. So, although I did make a note that I didn't see the property, so I can't speak to scenic views and all of that, even though I'm somewhat familiar with this area, so I took a note on that. Okay, so visual access, speaking of which, Brian?
I didn't I found this to be an attractive house to look at, and so it wasn't obstructing my view, and I don't think we're obstructing the residents' view.
Okay. Dave?
I think so.
I had it as unknown because I didn't visit the property. I don't know if it's blocking the ocean or,
Yep.
something else, so.
Great. Pat?
I felt like I didn't know what was around it, too. So once again, I wish I had visited the site, so I didn't rate it.
Okay. Steve?
I just, I made the assumption that there was, no water around, and then I gave it a satisfactory.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I think it's probably satisfactory and perhaps exemplary, but I would have had more information of it if we had a site visit before. That's all.
Yeah. And I made the same comment.
Great.
So just something to consider. I was just thinking, does it make sense to have, and I guess this would be for any of these categories, but like a
Photos?
not applicable, no, like a not applicable thing. Because
Oh,
if there
yeah.
is no floodplain, rather than, I think by default it's exemplary, but is it accurate to give it exemplary if it's actually nothing?
Well, I do think that the review of wetlands issues and all that needs to happen, even if it's not.
Oh,
Is that what
agreed.
you're saying?
Yeah, but I'm saying if the lot, like this lot has no wetlands, there is
Right.
no scenic view, there is no,
Right.
so there is no issue, but
So it's NA instead of
like,
exemplary.
this is a question for, do we count that as exemplary kind of by default, or is it really just, it's not applicable, so it's just a neutral? Because some lots don't have any significant,
I like the NA
Environmental.
versus the
Yeah.
exemplary.
Yeah, agreed.
I would agree with that. I just think we have a responsibility
yeah,
to look at
definitely you
each
need
of
to
the
address it.
criteria,
Right.
even if we feel it doesn't apply.
I agree
Just make
with that.
sure.
Right. And that, with that NA category, which I can just tack on at the end, right, that's an easy for the chair, right, to say, it looks like this isn't applicable, but were there any board member discussion points on this? No?
Okay.
And, you know,
Sure.
Great.
help
same thing with the next one, visual access, I mean.
Right.
If it's not on a pond or it's nowhere near the ocean,
No.
then.
You don't need to talk about it.
But counter to that point, you can see from this house down Higgins and down Baywood, and you can also see from far distance. But it's not, the distance that you look is, maybe enjoyable for whatever, if you're just trying to cite yourself. But you're right, there are no features to be scenic, except for the long,
Well, that issue does come up, as you know, where someone's saying it's going to impede their scenic view.
Yep.
And we wrestle with this one a lot.
Yep.
So that might be that, it's all kind of subjective, but it might be good if the board just determined that, majority of the board determined it's not applicable. Yeah, somebody's making an argument that, in the middle of November, when the leaves are off, and I look out, but if, it's kind of up to the board. Are you gonna take that as legitimate or not? So I think just having like that option of the board just
Okay.
consider it, determine it's not applicable. But I think that one, it gets tricky on that one, that
Okay.
criteria.
Yeah, also when you have a criteria that is multifaceted, you could say, well, it's not in the wetlands, but, it does incorporate a unique feature of some witch's tower that, might be offensive to, or something, but there isn't, do you know what I mean? So I think there's some granularity to that, but that's, as we use this, we'll come up with new ideas.
Witch's Tower.
I don't know what even a witch's
Now I'm
tower
gonna
is.
build one.
Okay, so environmental resources is where we are, and I think I'm going to start with Dan.
Yeah, this would be a tough one on a development of a single-family lot. You're not necessarily going to ask an applicant to demonstrate how he's protecting the groundwater quality, recharge volumes, coastal and fresh surface water quality. We've never asked that of a residential applicant.
You don't, but it is in the criteria, which is why it's included here.
Well, I don't think it's bad to address it. I just don't see how we would ever get the data to demonstrate it.
Well, I looked at whether the Board of Health approved it, and they did. So is that
Yeah, I
approximate for
think in the
this?
past, we've kind of limited the scope of this to be are they containing runoff? It was more just, is any runoff gonna go off the property? Do they have dry wells? Are they channeling? I think we've kind of just addressed those
Okay.
as part of that, it's,
think
because I agree
maybe,
with Dan, it's not, unless it's right on a body of water and you're getting into,
Yeah.
the runoff or
Right.
silt is going down, all that kind of stuff, whatever it might be, but.
But isn't it more important on a commercial kind of property?
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
to me like
It maybe
all the
comes up
ones that
more.
we've done, it becomes a more
Sure.
important factor.
I think so. I'm imagining a property that is uphill from a pond, and on their site plan, they've also got a really cool half-court basketball thing for their kids, and they've got a pool, and they've got a hot tub, and, you start to get into this sort of much larger look at, wow, this property has a lot going on, right? Versus one here that's very simple, that McKen would be, well, this isn't anywhere near a pond or a body of water. There's no stream running through it. It's a pretty typical project.
It's flat.
It's flat. There's no, huge paved areas. We can probably keep rolling.
Yeah, impervious surface.
Yeah, so it's one to know about, so that when it comes up, you can discuss it.
Okay, helpful. Pat, any
No.
additional? Brian?
Nothing.
Dave?
I was satisfactory on it.
Okay, Steve?
None.
Nothing
No.
else? Okay, well, we did talk about vehicular safety. Does anybody else have any additional comments on that one? All right. So let's just go to the last page real quick. This is our summary comments. And maybe we'll just go around, and if anybody has anything to add that we haven't already talked about, that might be good to share. So Dan, do you want to start us?
Yeah, basically, I would be in a position to vote approval on the project based on the Rubic.
Okay. Steve, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, I thought the overall architecture, was an attempt to make a large house look attractive. Given some questions about, as we talked previously, about what other efforts they've made to, not use up so much of the lot, ultimately, I think I'd be leaning toward approval as well.
Okay, thanks. Brian?
If I had anything again, or for disapproval, it would be a conditionality for kind of a more Cape feel for the yard, the landscaping plan, and in the house itself, but I would hedge towards.
Okay, Dave?
I agree with Brian. I think I would like to see plantings along the edge of the property to cut down on some of that visual effect from the roads.
Okay, Pat?
I'd like to see what else they considered before they agreed on this. So, yeah, that would be more of a discussion with them than just an approval.
Good. Yeah, I kind of agree with, if I had more context around what else they considered on the massing side, the street view side, the rest of the project, I feel very comfortable with. So I might ask for more information before I approved.
Great.
Great. Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Jackie and Paul, for that. Personally, I will just say that was a helpful exercise. We can go, I'm going to make, Dana and I discussed ahead of time that we would like to make a recommendation to the board to utilize this. We don't have any live real cases coming up in March, correct? Potentially we do in June. So we thought that it might be a good idea to use this without handing in our homework or any, requirements other than what we just did, and then take a pause on a meeting following that with a line item to discuss and decide whether we want to use it going forward. So even though this was a practice, it was a practice on an older case, and it's not a live applicant. Natasha, you're a great proxy for an applicant. So why don't we just go around and just see if that is satisfactory to everyone? And then we can take that forward, and you guys can help us do it for real next time. So Pat?
That
thoughts?
sounds like a good idea. The only other thing, which, I don't know, so this word exemplary, I think one of the things that I was struggling with is it assumes, to me, that the applicant did a really wonderful job of meeting some criterion, but as we talked, in some situations, it just wasn't applicable. So the applicant didn't have to do anything. So if we're judging, and we're not really judging the applicant as being exemplary, it's more the conditions.
So I think
know
that's
that the project
where
needs to-
adding an NA category, a not applicable category, which I think I'll do at the end for structure. So just another box there where
Yeah.
you could just be
Yeah.
checking this is not
That
relevant.
That might take care of that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you don't feel compelled to give that rating. I'm also envisioning using that, it might be an NA/need more info, so that if we are missing a lighting plan, we are missing a landscape plan, you can make yourself that note that, right, I wanted to figure that out. I have a couple questions written down just about structure as I listen to you go through that. Do you mind if I take a minute on that?
Sure.
So we'll add that category. My other question was just, as you went through that, would it be helpful so that everyone knows where you are, if the rows were numbered?
Yes.
Okay.
What rows?
Like
the-
1, 2,
So they have
3,
names, the criterions have names, natural state preservation,
Yeah.
but I could add a 1, a 2, just for quick reference.
Or 1.1, 1.2.
Yeah, okay.
2.1.
Yep,
2.0.
I can do that,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because, you know, as these discussions get long,
Great
and then the
idea.
applicant starts in and someone says, where are we? So mapping yourselves back to where you need to be. Okay, so we're gonna do that. And then, this was so helpful to listen to you go through it. If you take a minute to look at your rubric for me, in criterion 2, the first row, just by default of how this shows up in the language of the bylaw, is prevailing character. But in some senses, prevailing character is then a summary of all of the things that follow.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have any opinion on either moving that to the end of this
Yeah,
section?
I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, or removing it all together. I kind of like having it in there, but I will default to how you all feel about it. So I'm thinking if we moved it to the end, so you went height and scale, massing,
Yes.
setbacks, so on, then you would arrive at this prevailing character that would sort of be, oh, I've just gone through each element.
Yeah,
What does
it's,
that add
it's
up
kind of hard
to?
if you've done marginal,
Right,
and then
right.
go
And then you
exemplary
go
at
kinda-
the
yeah,
end.
you're going back.
Right, I was thinking the same thing, Jackie.
Okay.
So it goes in those 3 on the next page too?
Right.
Would be part of
Yeah,
it?
because I had a hard time, I kept going back, I was doing the massing thing, and I was like, oh,
Oh, wait.
I was including that up,
Right.
right. So
Right.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay.
But what does
Yeah.
everybody else think?
That,
Makes sense.
Dan or Steve, do you have anything on that?
I'm fine with,
Okay. Okay, great.
Anything else, Jackie?
Jackie, I'd
No,
like
I'm-
to compliment you, actually.
Yes, I would too.
Thank you.
It made me focus
So
on
good.
specific things as I was going along. And, you know, a lot of times I'm kind of a fly-by-night kind of person. But it made me focus on that specific issue and guided me towards looking at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Thanks for
And,
that.
right.
I think it's
Thank you.
a great tool.
Good, thanks. And,
Likewise.
you know what? You all do so much for the town by serving on this board, and you all contribute in so many other ways. We know that you're really busy and that you're here as volunteers. So I also, you know, it's so helpful to do the homework beforehand, but sometimes you're gonna come into a meeting and you're gonna have just gotten back from some fabulous vacation, or life got really busy, or, you know, whatever it will be. So my hope would also be that even if you're coming in sort of fresh, by looking line by line, you can draw your attention to that part of the project as you go through it. Because when you have a big packet in front of you, it's easy to get a little lost.
Yep.
So just to go back to what Michelle and Dan, go over it one more time.
So, I don't know, Dan, do you want to headline it?
yeah, there's a few things I'd like to say. First of all, I don't want this tool to intimidate anybody. I don't want this tool to stop the process of individual thought. I've been on this planning board since 2009. I have always made this statement. I want every board member to vote his mind. I don't want him to cave into a unanimous decision because he thinks that's the right thing to do. It's not, in my opinion. So this is a good tool for you to do your analysis and for you to come up with your own conclusions. And the majority of the board votes holds. So don't feel that if you see somebody who has a different view of a particular item, that perhaps you should go to that view. Don't. Keep your ideas and keep your opinions safe. And with respect to this, I think it's a great tool. We'll find out soon if it is. And I think what Michelle and I have decided is we're going to let it run, and then we're going to review it. And if the board members agree that it's a worthwhile tool, and this will take a few months, then it could be part of our practice. We don't need Board of Selectmen approval on it. We don't need town meeting approval on it. This is an internal tool that we could use in order to do our review. So that's my opinion. I think that, will it stay the way it is? I don't know. But I think it's worth a try, and I respect everybody's input that they had today on it. And I think that's what makes the planning board work. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Any other comments on our idea of you test driving it, if you will? Brian, any other comments? Steve, any other comments?
I'm good. Sounds good.
Okay, great. And I do want to echo the, thanks, Jackie and Paul both. I mean,
Just
continuous
Jack-
improvement.
Yes,
and-
Jackie, this is her
Yeah,
thing,
well,
and I echo, she did a great job on this.
and,
Thank you.
and I thanked her for the test case we did last time as well. I thought that was really, really terrific. So,
So will we be doing another test case?
I don't think you need to. I think you're ready.
no, I think we've aced this one. But what I, we can.
If you want more practice, if you want to come by and we can dredge up another case for you, if that helps you in your understanding, always happy to do that. As Michelle said, we did not have any filings for March, so we don't have any new cases on for March. We do have the zoning hearing, and Paul will have more to say on that. So we do have a meeting on the 18th, but we do not have any site plan approval cases on the 18th.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to start at 4 on March 18th, and it's just going to be the planning board public hearing on the proposed zoning amendments. We're just finishing up the summary report with the task force, so I will be sending out to the board the report with all of the draft proposed warrant articles. In between, now we won't have a meeting in between now and then, but on an individual basis, if any of the board members have any questions or concerns or unclear about anything, please don't hesitate, reach out to us. We're happy to talk with you one-on-one so you're prepared for the meeting, the hearing. Again, the purpose of the hearing is to give the public an opportunity. So we never know what kind of turnout we're going to get out, but this is the opportunity for people to come, ask questions, raise concerns, and the board also. And if there's anything we need to adjust or fine tune or go back and think on some more, that's what we want. We want the comments. So I would say anything you might spot ahead of time that you want to bring up to me would be helpful, just so I can bring that and be prepared to address it. But again, this is our chance. And I guess in addition to the hearing on the 18th, I have scheduled myself for 2 basically open office hours at the library on, I'm just going to blank on February 24th and March 16th. One's in the afternoon, one's in the evening. So I'll be at the library, just anyone from the public wants to come in and talk them through this stuff. And we will be reviewing them with the Strategic Planning Committee on March 2nd, and they'll be reviewed by the Select Board and the Finance Committee on March 9th. So there will be opportunity, and these will all be posted on the website and everything, so that's the plan.
Great, thank you.
And the feedback from the task force planning board joint meeting was really helpful. So again, thanks to everyone that came to that, because we did make some adjustments based on that meeting.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, everybody. All right, Dan, any other closing comments?
Nope.
Okay, any other business? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Dan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Aye.
Thank